I'm Tyler Chrestman. Welcome to the Chrestman Conversation. As many of you have guessed, I am in Italy, and I will be for the next week, I think, something like that. I've been here for a week and a half. I think I'll be here for another week, taking some time off, doing some traveling. It's been fun. This is pretty cool. I am staying right now. It's hard to tell. Yeah. You can see these ruins behind me. That is actually the spot where Julius Caesar was assassinated. I'm staying right across the street from that. And it's pretty cool being in Rome, which is where I'm at, in case you didn't know where Julius Caesar's from. It's amazing because this is kind of like the center of what we think of when we think of history. There's so much that happened in this place throughout time, and it's so important in a variety of reasons. You have not only the Roman Empire that people think about, but it's basically responsible for spreading Christianity throughout the world and under Constantine, and so many of the things that we think about on a daily basis, us men think about on a daily basis, took place right here. And one of those things that I feel as though people have forgotten about, maybe because it's gotten so much worse, is the importance of art. And I was on a train yesterday, and I put my headphones on, and I decided to do a little writing because I had a couple hours. So over the course of about, I guess it was more like an hour and a half, I had about an hour and a half, I wrote a little something that I decided was going to be the topic when I was thinking of a video for the week. So this is I guess I'll call it an essay, more of a journal really, but this is the topic for the week is going to be on the importance of art. Let me pull it up real quick. And I'm going to do something I don't normally do on the podcast, which is just do some reading for you guys. Let me get it all set up here. Okay. Indian style. Oh, I had plans, by the way, to record. There's a lovely terrace on the top of this place, but it's a little rainy today. It's actually the first day in the last 2 weeks I've seen rain, so a little unfortunate because it was a beautiful view up there. You can see the St. Michael's Basilica in the background from where I'm staying, which is a pretty neat view, as well as they got churches every 15 feet in Rome, so you can see about 50 churches, but also the big dome from the Vatican, which is cool. Anyway, so I'm going to read to you a little journaling I did yesterday. And I called it The Importance of Art. A person might think that explaining why art is important is unnecessary. That creative passion is chained within the soul of every human aching to be free. That the eye is drawn to the aesthetic, and the mana which propels our spirits forward seeks out the beautiful. But this is not the case. We see this reflected in our current culture. The paintings, the buildings, the music. We have taken a turn away from the divine and towards the desolate. The arc of our civilization's arrow has bent away from our telos and towards our baser passions. Walk around any old city and look at the buildings. Examine the detail that went into their creation. Notice the pride that people once took in their work. Take, for example, the cathedrals that took hundreds of years to build, put together by men who knew they would never live to see their completion. There is a feeling as you walk around in these places that puts a bounce in your step and invigorates the spirit. Compare this to the brutalism that dominates the architecture in the post-World War II era, the beauty of neoclassicalism replaced by that dirty word, functionality. Unending rows of rectangles made of drab, gray cement. The buildings themselves seem to oppress you, to snatch the bird of your imagination and snap its wing before it can fly. The art, too, at least in mediums that people traditionally think of when they hear the word art, has also suffered greatly. A crucifix in a jar filled with urine was photographed, and the picture won awards for its artistry. The name of the exhibit, Piss Christ. Modern art celebrates the distasteful and elevates the mediocre. Jackson Pollock splatters paint on a canvas like a toddler doodling on the wall, and someone decided this was worth money. Why? Because some critic said so, and the rest of the sheep followed suit. A man once placed his spectacles on the floor of a museum and stood back, pretending to ponder the meaning. Soon after, there were people all around, thinking about the statement the artist tried to make by putting glasses on the floor. Modern art is perpetuated by people like this, faux experts who think it makes them seem cultured to disdain the classics and embrace the absurd. Michelangelo was admired for his terrible, the ability to inspire terror or awe in people who viewed his work. But modern art is crass for crass's sake. It inspires no one, says nothing of meaning, and does so poorly. Measuring art is difficult to do. Every artist has a vision they hope to create and show to the world, and the people will value their art accordingly, though the people are not always right. After all, Vincent van Gogh and Edgar Allan Poe died unknown and penniless, while the aforementioned Jackson Pollock was once featured in Life magazine with the caption, "Is he the greatest living painter in the United States?" The injustices never cease to amaze. Art is important because it can lift our spirits, but it's more than that. Art connects us. It is easy to look at a painting and be taken in by its beauty. It can captivate the eye and please the senses. There is nothing that needs to be said to explain why observing beauty is good for the soul. It is also possible to appreciate art because of the skill involved to make the work, the time it took the artist to create such an intricate piece, and the years spent studying the technique to get that brush stroke or chisel to sing just the right way. Still, there is something else, more important, that often escapes unnoticed by the casual observer. Imagine standing in front of the David, a 17-foot tall colossus statue that has existed for centuries. The same space where you stand in front of it has been shared by millions of people. Kings, queens, celebrities, writers, philosophers, and common people on holiday. They all stood where you stood and looked up. They felt that sense of awe as they gazed at that marble masterpiece. Every visitor to that place a dot on the timeline, as yours would be when you leave. Art unites humanity through a reminder that we share this space together, our ancestors and our progeny, a never-ending thread of people connected by a shared experience 520 years in the making. That's its importance. It reminds us of who we are. So just some thoughts I had yesterday on the train. This last paragraph is, I think, something that a lot of people don't ever consider. Because as I say, it's easy to look at something and think of it as beautiful. You see a painting or a building or a sculpture, doesn't matter. Or you hear a piece of music that makes you tear up and you feel like it's beautiful. And that's the easy thing about art that everyone can appreciate, because everyone just knows what's aesthetic and pleasing and beautiful to the eye. And then there's the layer that's right below that, where it's easy to look at something and say, I couldn't do that. And say, that's amazing. I don't know how the artist ever painted such a beautiful picture or made this out of clay or whatever it is. You look at it and you say, I can't do it. That's so impressive. It's amazing. And those two layers of art, that 1-2, is pretty much where most people stop. And that's fine, because that's all you really need. But that third layer, I think that most people don't think about, is also important. And it's this idea that we all, if time is always moving, let's go back to the 1500s when David was constructed. So 1504, Michelangelo finishes that statue. From 1504 to 2024, when I'm recording this, you have people who gather around and they've stood where you're standing, and they've all had that experience. These people who lived in the 1500s, who had nothing in common with you. They lived a life that was completely alien to you in 500 years later. They didn't know anything that you know. They probably, I'm talking about the common people when that statue just sat in the plaza that everyone could come to. They have nothing in common with you today, 500 years later, except that they understood that feeling. They knew what it meant to look at that statue and be amazed. You have that in common because they're people. They're people who came from a different culture, speak a different language, lived a life in the Renaissance that had absolutely no modern luxuries or comforts. Nothing in common with you, except that they were human. And this reminds you of that because you're human. And in 500 years, the people who are related to you down the road, they're going to have nothing in common with you, except that they also will be human. And that's what this is. You're a dot on the timeline. You're here. They were Let's go backwards. They were here. And in the future, your children, grandchildren, great, 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 great grandchildren will be here. And you all exist on this thread together. And a statue or a painting, the Mona Lisa, David, going to Notre Dame, and I don't know if they still let people sit in there since the fire, but sitting in the pews, these kind of things are important. They unite people and they bring us together because you can remember that despite all the superficial divisions, like right now, we got the Donald Trump verdict from that jury in New York. Can you tell me in 1500 what was going on, the politics involved in making of the David? Or I bet you didn't know what I was less familiar with than I'll care to admit, how many different kingdoms made up Italy and how their political wars and strife shaped this country in such a giant way. The Venetians and the Florentines and all these different factions just fighting each other constantly for centuries. But do you remember that from the 1500s? Do you know anything about that? Do you think in 2029 they're going to give two cares about what was going on, our stupid fighting between Joe Biden and Donald Trump? I don't think so. And it's important to remember that. Take the long view of things occasionally and remember that we all have that feeling. We all have that in common, if nothing else. We all are human, if nothing else. Anyway, as I said, these are always going to be a little brief for what they are. This was just, I had an idea yesterday on the train because I was having that thought about what it means to be a person and why art is important. And I was going to put another thing on there at the end too, which was, this is also why it's important in your personal life to surround yourself with things that you find beautiful or inspiring. Decorate your places. Make your space pretty. Not for other reasons, not for other people, for you, because it's invigorating and it is inspiring, and your life will improve if you're surrounded by beautiful things. It will. I'm not talking about materialism. I'm not talking about objects aren't going to make you happy. But designing a space in such that it can propel you forward is important. Because I am the opposite of that. I don't think that I think people buy too much useless crap. They do it all the time. It's a waste of money, and materialism is never going to be a source of happiness. But art is not that to me. Art is not a new pair of shoes or a purse or some stupid gadget you saw on television. That's not what art is. Art is a different kind of thing, and it's good for you. It's good for a person to surround themselves with the beautiful. Anyway, we're going to leave it there for the week. Congratulations to those of you who last week's video just knew I was in Italy. I know a couple of you cheated a little bit and knew me personally, but that's okay. We don't mind. But we're gonna leave it there. And as always, I hope you guys are enjoying your life out there, because it's important, like I said last week, to do a little living. And now we've got 2 new pieces of advice from the Chrestman conversation. Live your life. Go enjoy art. Don't be pretentious about it either. That drives me nuts. That's something that you don't have to sit there and analyze and study and deconstruct art to appreciate it. You just have to just hit it on the surface level. Is it beautiful? Why do you think that? You don't have to know how the artist hides their brush strokes, or whether or not Michelangelo used a flat chisel or a tooth comb. It doesn't matter. Is what you're looking at gorgeous? Does it inspire you? Do you feel that sense of awe? That's what matters. Surround yourself with those things. 1, 2, live your life, enjoy your art. And number 3, I'll catch you guys next Friday.